Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us on this live stream here on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. My name is Florian and I'm so delighted to be with you today to share with you some idea that I believe will help you if you're a leader, if you work with people. These are things for you because I believe that we live in an era where we need to go back to our values and be more, warm and empathic in our leadership. So today we're going to look at leading from the heart. How can we create connection and collaborate with our team and influence our team based on values and based on empathic leadership? So this is going to be recorded. It's going to be uploaded on our learning portal. So if you're a member of our community, then you're going to get access to this afterwards. Otherwise, tune in here on social media. So we'll be more than happy to share this with you. Okay. So let me check the slides here. We have some slides for us today, and I'm going to share with you some principles that you're going to probably find useful for you in your leadership journey, okay? So let's dive right in. Welcome to today's course. My name is Florian, and I'm so delighted that you join us here. And over the next 45 to 1 hour, I'm going to take you through some principles that I have found in my leadership and working with organizations around the world that bring that extra touch, that special touch, that empathic kind of leadership, the kind of people that, other people want to follow. So today we're going to look at some principles that will help us connect with people, will help us use empathy in our leadership, because I believe we live in an era where that's needed more and more from us. Okay, so let's look at what we're going to cover today. The objectives of today would be to look at what are leadership and influence. What are these two things and how do they work and how do they actually work in practice. I'm going to share with you a framework from John Maxwell, the organization that I'm certified with, and I'm going to dive deeper into that one. We're going to look at why influence grows with trust and how can we build that kind of solid ground with our team. We're going to look at how connecting increases our influence in any situation and some of the shifts that we need to make in our leadership in order for us to be able to influence others and build rapport with them. And if you are a bit like me, you probably want to increase your influence with others so you can influence them more effectively and you can lead with less stress. And so you might be looking for solutions like this. And here is what I know. It takes a lot of time for us and a lot of energy for us to build relationship with people, and sometimes we put a lot of energy in working with our team and still we don't see the kind of results that we wanna see. So if you are there and it feels for you that it takes a lot of energy and you don't seem to get the results you hope, here is what I know. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Let me say that again. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. In other words, they want to know that you value them as individuals. You're not just interested in their results or what they can do for you in the organization. They want to know that you value them and also that you care about them. So what positions me to share this with you? Well, as I shared, my name is Florian Longo, and over the last few years, I developed leadership curricula, and I help organizations around the world, especially in the Nordics, in developing their people, developing a leadership culture through coaching, tailored coaching, training, and facilitation. And I'm from the automotive industry, so my background is not in the people skills. And I deal with many of the challenges that I'm going to share with you today in my earlier career. And there was a time in my life when, in my early career, when I didn't know any of the things that I'm going to share with you. And I saw people like machines, like give them a command, you expect them to do it. And you actually give them the same command twice and you expect them to do it in the same way. I thought that you could put people in the same situation twice, you expect the same outcome. You could put different people in the same situation, you expect the same outcome. So it's more or less like as you would maybe give a command to ChatGPT today and you expect to give it the same output every time. And if you have used that even for little, you can see that even GPT, it's complex enough so it doesn't give you the exact same answers to the same question if you ask it twice. So what I'm saying is that people are much more complex than we think, and that it takes for us to get to understand them and to get to connect with them in order for them to be on board with our ideas, with our leadership. Because the reason why we want to lead, the reason why you are interested in leadership is because you can see that you could take this society, you could take this organization, you could take this team, you could take your family, your community further, and you could improve everyone's condition, everyone's results, if you would get more people on board to see what you see. So if you are here and you're interested in this topic and this is part of your curriculum, then this is for you. So I struggled, as you just learned, that I didn't see people as complex as they were. I was not very interested in people because I had my own way. I was very direct. I was giving answers and instructions, and I was surprised why people don't do what I tell them to do. So I was completely unaware of the things that I'm going to share with you today. But it took some shifts for me. So in order for me to change my results, because I realized, oh, my method doesn't work. It was not very clear at the beginning. I thought other people are the problem, not me, not my method. And I was trying to get people to change rather than adapt my approach. But nothing changed until I made some shifts. But everything started to change when I made these following changes. When I started to focus on building and maintaining trust with those that I wanted to influence. I started to connect with myself first, knowing and liking my strengths and blind spots. And this was a big one, because I didn't want to admit my weaknesses. I didn't want to admit my blind spots. Let me tell you something. Your people already know those. I mean, they see you. They interact with you. They see your blind spots. They see your weaknesses. It's not like it's unknown to them. It's not like it's a surprise. It's like a secret. No, they know it already. So you put everyone at ease by admitting them. So in order for us to be able to connect with people, to lead people, to be unattached if people like us or not, we need to be comfortable. And not, I mean, I thought that I'm okay with me and I'm comfortable with myself. But I needed to start liking myself. So you're not only comfortable with yourself, but you like yourself in your style. So I started to connect with myself first, and liking my strengths and blind spots. I started to focus on others more than I focus on myself. And I began to start touching their hearts before asking for a hand. And we're going to dive deeper in all of these principles in today's course here. But here's what I know. Unless you start valuing people and you want to talk to people and lead people because you feel they have value, rather than you think you have something of value to say, nothing is going to change for you. So let's go right into the lesson here. What we're going to cover is we're going to look at what leadership is, how does it work, and how it impacts you. We're going to look at John Maxwell 5's level of leadership, and to kind of look at this compass, like this map, right, to assess what level of leadership are we with our team. We're going to look at how influence grows with trust and how to build trust through empathy. We're going to share some connecting practices, how to connect with your team members, and then some next steps for you to elevate your leadership. Okay? Sounds good? Perfect. Let's dive in. So here is the foundation of leadership. Like, as I share, I'm associated with the Maxwell leadership, and John Maxwell, our founder, has been asked many times, John, how do you define leadership? What it takes to be a leader. And what he says is that leadership, it's influence, nothing more, nothing less. Leadership, it's influence, nothing more, nothing less. And here is a big shift for me, because I used the terms manager and leader interchangeably. And in order for us to connect with people and to really lead empathically, we really need to be a leader, not a manager. And I know there's this conception that, well, okay, leaders, at least in the Nordics, are kind of the C-suite executives of an organization, right? And so then they are quote-unquote the leaders. And if you are in the middle of the organization, you're a manager, right? So I want to get this straight. Like, this is the difference between managers and leaders. Managers maintain systems and processes, while leaders influence people to follow. So management, it's about maintaining systems and processes. Leadership, it's about influencing people to follow. And look how different these are. While managers enforce organizational structure and systems, implement strategy and performance metrics, focuses on controlling outcomes and mitigates risk. At the same time, leadership, it's about casting vision and inspiring others to participate, encourages innovation and drives change and ideas, builds relationship and nurtures teams cohesion, coaches individuals for personal growth and professional growth, embraces change and drives transformation. While managers manage resources and allocate tasks and address problems and offer solutions. So very much based on the doing, on the technicality of the organization. So don't get me wrong, we need both, right? We need both. And if you have a leadership role, or however you want to call it, management role, if you are a team leader or a team manager, you have to do both, right? There will be some tasks that are the day-to-day things that you need to do. And your responsibility as a leader is to do the thing that you see on the right there, to actually lead people, to inspire people, to connect with people. And so I just want this to be, kind of the basis for us as we move forward through these principles. And here's what I know. If you don't have influence, you'll never be able to lead others. I learned this the hard way. In my first leadership position, when I was promoted to be a leader, I was the team leader of a team that I was part of before. So kind of my work buddies become my team members. And they didn't see me as their leader or the manager. I was just, we know Florian. And I would go and ask, hey, we need to do this, we need to do that. And said, well, Florian, you know how things work here. Don't be the boss. Don't act as the boss with us. So I had zero influence with them. I had some influence, but that influence was based on our previous relationship as being colleagues. And now all of a sudden, I needed to shift from, this is, I think, the biggest shift that we don't understand. That many organizations makes this mistake, and they make promotions wrongly. They take the best technical person and they promote that person to be a leader. And what they've done, they don't understand that it takes a completely different skill set to be a leader, to be a manager, than to be a technical person. And so you lose a great technical individual, you gain a bad manager, no one's happy about it. And the shift that has to happen is that the person needed to bring results to the team through their own kind of competencies and skills and abilities. All of a sudden, when you become a leader, you become a manager, now you have to bring results through people. That's the biggest shift. If up until now you brought results through your efforts, when you become a leader, manager, project leader, product owner, scrum master, you will start bringing results through people. So that's why if you don't have influence, then you can't really lead others. Here is what I know when it comes to influence. This is something that I learned from Tim Elmer. He says that even the most introverted individual will influence about 10,000 people during their lifetime. So even if you don't consider yourself as a leader, if you think you're introverted, then you still influence people. We always influence someone. We always are in a situation that we are either influencing or we are influenced by other people. Even if you have, for example, kids, like if you want to influence your kids to wear some clothes, to eat the food, to do some activities, to not do some activities. So if you try to do that way, what you're doing, you're influencing them. They might influence you. And I can see that we have a almost 20 months old son, Adam. And many times, like he would look at me in a certain way and he would influence me to get to play with him or to give him something that maybe he doesn't, he shouldn't have right now. So don't get me wrong, we always influence someone or we are influenced by someone. So even the most introverted person influences many people in their lifetime. So why don't we become intentional about that? If we know that we influence other people, let's influence them in the direction that we think is good for them and for us. So here is an example here how influence works. That's why leadership, it's influence, and we didn't mention any position, we didn't mention any rank or any title, right? Leadership, it's influence, nothing more, nothing less. Imagine this. At the end of the team meeting, you do this presentation and you ask the people around the table, what do you think about it? What do you think about it? You know, what's your opinion on this? And what happens is, if you watch closely, this is exactly what happens. Look at this picture. People turn towards the informal leader in the meeting. In this case, you know, the lady there in the center seems to be the informal leader. So in one of my previous examples, in one of my previous experiences, that person was Lars. Now, whenever we had a technical topic to discuss, whenever something was on the table, then when the presentation was over and the presenter turned back to the room, you know, what do you think? Like, people turn towards Lars and they're waiting to see what position Lars takes so they know kind of where to position themselves. And that was very, very clear. Lars didn't have any title. Lars was not the leader of the team. Lars was not even the technical leader of the team. But Lars had influence. So is this person. This person is the informal leader in the organization. So what I'm saying is that you don't have to have a title to be a leader. You are influencing other people, and they are people in your team, in your organization that are influencing others, and they might not have the title, right? So let's remind ourselves, leadership, it's influence, nothing more, nothing less. So how do we build that influence, and how do we become an effective leader? Here are three areas here. Again, I don't want to misspell this person, name, but Robert Dillenschneider, right, from his book Power of Influence, shares that there is kind of a power triangle when it comes to effective leadership. And he says that we need to be able to communicate effectively. When we communicate effectively, we get recognized for that ability. That increases our influence. And when our influence increases, then we are able to communicate to even more people, to get recognized even more. and then to get even more influence. So effective leadership is at the intersection of communication, recognition, and influence. And I'm going to share with you in the next few principles here that you could actually start at different levels. You could start with recognition, for example. You could be a really good producer and you start to get recognized for your results, right? Then you become good at, and you get invited to speak, right? And to share your knowledge. Then people see you communicating and then assume that if you are good at this area and you're also good at communicating, then you are a sharp person. You have influence. So then your influence grows. So in order for us to improve our influence, to grow our influence, these will be kind of two areas that you could actually focus on. Communication, getting good at communicating, and also building results and creating results so we are recognized for our abilities, okay? The very essence of all power to influence lies in getting the other person to participate. I love this quote because what it says is that if we are able to make the other person participate, then we have influence. If they don't participate, then we don't have influence. So how do we make people to participate? How do we, what are the levels of influence that we are with people and how do they show up at work? So here are the kind of the first key principle in this course here, in this lesson. John Maxwell 5 levels of leadership, like a 5-stage model to influence. Now, the first level of leadership is called positional leadership. Like this is when you get a title, a position. Like that was me when I started my career, and I was, as I share in maybe other instances, promoted by one of my early mentors, Eric Lyotard. So he saw something in me that I couldn't see myself. So I got promoted, okay? And I became the team leader. Now I had the position, but as I shared, I didn't have any influence with my team. I was their former, teammate. So I started in the position. I got the title, and what John Maxwell says is it's a good place to start, but it's a terrible place to stay. Right? We don't want to stay in the position level. We don't want just for people to follow us just because we're the boss. Like I think there was a quote that I might not remember it correctly, but there was something that says these things. If you have to remind people that you're in charge, you're not in charge. If you are just relying on your position, that's what you're doing. You're relying on people following the contractual obligation of their role and their job. The next level here is permission. At this level, you got people's permission to follow. You got people's permission to lead them. And this is, how I kind of build my my leadership career, in the automotive industry, where, okay, now Florian was this colleague, it was this engineer that it was, we were mates with. Now he got this position, okay, at the end of the day, he has some leverage, but then they started to see, okay, that Florian actually really cares about us and can bring some results. And so they started to allow me to lead them, right? So you see, there's a progression. You start at the position, and then people allow you to lead them. Here is the difference between level 2 and level 1. At level 1, you have your boss permission to lead. At level 2, you have your people's permission to lead. At level 1, I had my boss, Eric Lyotard, permission to lead. He promoted me, but I didn't yet have the permission from my team. But that came little by little over time as I went through some of the steps that I'm going to share with you later in the course. The next level there, level number 3, it's production. At this level, people follow you because of the results that you bring, of what you could do for them and for the organization and for the team. So at level number one, people follow because they have to. You're the boss. At level number two, people follow because they want to. At level number three, people follow because of what you could do for them and for the organization. So most people spend their careers between level 2 and level 3, depending on if they are more people-oriented or task-oriented, right? So they kind of switch between these two levels. And we don't have to see these levels as being, separate and independent, and as you go up to a level, then you stay at that level. No, each of these levels have different components that you have to earn, you have to do. And if you stop doing, for example, you're not doing the responsibilities of your role, then you lose your position. Like if you focus too much on creating relationship with people and getting their permission and wanting them to like you and love you, and you don't deliver the results, then you're also gonna lose your first of all, you're not going to produce the results that you are supposed to. So at the end of the day, you're not really serving the organization and the people well. If you take them on a trip and then you waste all the resources in the first few days of the trip, and then they starve, then you have not served them, right? So each of these aspects are actually working together, and it's not like we get to one level and then we're there and we don't have to do anything about it. And we are at different levels with different people in our organization. And so here is how level 2 and level 3 play out. If you are task first, results driven, then you probably are at level 3, because you have influence based on your results and the results you can produce for the organization. If you prefer relationship first, you are a people-driven leader, then you are most likely to be at level 2, because that's permission-based influence. People follow because they want to follow. And we all have some of each of these levels, right? And there's a blend of, you can't just rely on results. If you only rely on results, you're gonna maybe hurt the culture of the team. Like if everything is about results, and you burn people out, then you're not a good leader, right? So there is a combination of these two levels, but most people stay there. Like most leaders, most managers stay at 2 or 3 depending on their preferences. Then here is where we can help leader to really understand their leadership style and their communication style and their work style, if they are more task oriented or people oriented. And if they want to make sure that they get to level 4, then they shouldn't rely only on one of the level 2 or level 3. So we help them work on their weaknesses, but also maximize their strengths. But in order for us to understand where they are and to help them to see themselves realistically, we use a set of assessment. I'm going to share more about that later with you. But let's look at level 4. Level 4 is people development. Now at this level, people follow because you develop them, because they feel valued. And then this is where really starts to get interesting, because one of the core principles of the Maxwell philosophy is that the leader's greatest return is developing other people, developing leader. And if your organization, if your team, if you have a dream which is big enough, then you're going to probably need other people. And so when you start developing people, that's when you start to maximize and multiply your influence. When I was in that kind of early position in my leadership career, I had a kind of a selfish motive for me to develop people, but it turned out that it served me very well. But I was not aware at the time of how this could help me. I wanted to be promoted. I wanted to go to the next level. I wanted to take the next position in my career. I want to go to lead projects and kind of lead people, cross-functionally, which I thought it was kind of a challenge for me, and I wanted that challenge. I would not have the position, so people would not follow me because of the position. I would not be their manager, but I would lead a project where they would be, a team member of that project. So I wanted to take that position. So I realized that if I want to take this position, I want to make sure that I become, dispensable. Like the first question that my supervisor, my manager at the time would have asked me is like, Florian, okay, so who's going to replace you? And I needed to have an answer for that. So it started as a selfish kind of motive, but it had me develop people. And I developed people in a way that I was not needed in the team. I was not needed to make decisions. There were some things that were required of me, and I was the only person to do that. But many other things could have been done by others. And it was not that I didn't want to do the work. It was that I want to grow and develop them in the process. So I started developing people because I was selfish, but that turned to be one of the best decisions that I could have ever made. Because leaders become great not because of their power, but because of their ability to empower others. And I truly believe that. I saw that, play in that leadership role, and I'm so grateful I was able to do that, even though it was an unconscious move and a selfish move. Level 5, it's the pinnacle. Now people follow you because you've done good for so many people for so long. Like you're just respected as a leader in your organization or in your field. So this is kind of a level that is probably not even accessible to most of us. These are people that like the Nobel Prize laureate, someone that has done so much in a field that people just respect them. Like you could say John Maxwell is at that level in the leadership field, right? Because he has created so much material on the topic. He is probably the most prolific author in the world, alive or dead, on leadership. So he's respected and voted over and over again as being the number one leadership expert, probably in the world. So he is at that level in the field of leadership because of what he has done. But for most of us, we don't have to worry about level 5. I think if we get to level 4, that's a great achievement in our lives. So that's what we try to do today. We're going to try to help you, give you some tips to get to level 4. Okay? So here is how this plays out. Level 1, people have to follow. You're the boss. Level 2, people want to follow. Level 3, people admire your results. Level 4, people become loyal to you because you develop them and you offer opportunities to them and you lift them. And level 5, that's your reputation. And so this is how the 5 levels play out. Make sense? Okay. So let me give you some reflective questions on this principle here. Here are some questions that you could actually consider. You find this also in your participant guide, but at each level, there are some questions that we want to ask ourselves. So for example, level 3, reflect on the results you have achieved. How have your personal contribution and leadership directly influenced the productivity and morale of your team, right? People follow us because of our results. If we want to create a relationship with people, if we are focusing too much on level 2, but we're not bringing the results, at the end of the day, if you are in a for-profit organization, results matter, right? So how I make sure that my contribution actually inspires my team and contributes to the team results. Level 4, who are the potential leaders within your team that you are mentoring? And how are you measuring the effectiveness of your development efforts, right? So some really good questions for you to think about when it comes to these principles, okay? If you need a thinking partner, drop me a line. I'll be more than happy to do that for you, okay? key principle number 2. Influence grows with trust. How empathy builds trust. Trust is actually the foundation of leadership. And in the 5 dysfunctions of a team, Patrick Lencioni actually talks about the lack of trust being the kind of the foundation of the other dysfunctions. So let me put this on the screen. So if you look at this pyramid here, it's like the 5 levels that we just discussed earlier. This is, okay, builds one upon the other. And he had found that the biggest dysfunction of a team, which leads to all the others, is the absence of trust. And trust is actually the currency of leadership. If people trust each other in the team, then people are able to challenge each other, and there will be some healthy conflict in the team. People will not be afraid to commit to their goals and the achievement, and also they will not avoid accountability. So if trust is the foundation of leadership, and trust is the leadership currency, like, how do we earn trust? Because here's what I know. You can't just ask for trust or for respect. Like you can't just say, hey, I demand respect. Since when you can demand respect? Respect is something that you earn, right? So here is the difference between demanding trust and respect and earning trust, right? When someone demands trust, they ask for confidence from others without actually establishing the credibility. When you earn trust, you demonstrate reliability and consistency over time. You build your credibility through action and proven results, rather than if you assume a position and a title, then automatically you expect that trust to be given to you. And that might be the case. Like, a position can give you some trust, and that gives you some time. But then you have to prove your competence, you have to prove your leadership. And you either take the time to prove it, or you will show that maybe you are not worthy of that title. So a position and a title could give you some trust, but then you have to earn it. So it's very clear that when you earn trust, then this is something that comes organically from every interaction. You show competence, integrity, benevolence in leadership, and trust is a response to your exhibited character and competence, rather than demanding trust. So we can't demand trust, we can't ask for trust or respect, we need to earn it. So how do we earn it? Here are 3 principles, 3 different things that could help us gain trust. And that's where the trust-based leadership lies. They are competence, connection, and character. If we are not competent, we're not going to gain people trust. This is, again, the production level, okay? Connection, this is level 2, being able to connect with people. And then character, this is our trust. So if we look at that, then we need to understand that trust could be earned. And how could we actually do that? Because character makes trust possible, and trust makes leadership possible. If what we mean by character is like having sound values, living our values, being reliable, being trustworthy, being there for people, that's our character. And through that character, people can trust us. If I say I'm going to be there at a time and a date and I'm not there, then I'm violating your trust. And this is very much very important, especially in the Nordic countries, where you don't even have a calendar invite with someone. You just have a conversation, a verbal conversation or a chat, and say, we're going to meet there at that time. You don't have to follow up with them, you don't have to remind them, you don't have to send them an invite, they don't have to accept it, because that's an agreement. And so if you, for example, are from a different culture and you don't appreciate that and you're not aware of that, then you might violate someone's trust because you're not where you agreed to be. How do we build trust? By showing empathy. Like, what does empathy means? Meaning that we're able to see the situation from the other person's perspective. And one of the tools that we have found that helps, it's an empathy map. So for example, if you're trying to influence someone, if you're trying to empathize with someone, this is a framework that helps you kind of put on a piece of paper. So you can even print this out and put the names of the person in the middle, maybe glue their picture there, and then try to jot down some things that, how does this person think and feel? What are their concerns, aspirations, and desires? What do they hear in their environment from colleagues and social media? What do they see? What do they say and do? What are some pains they try to avoid, and what are some gains that they could get from this situation? So what we're trying to do, we're trying to put ourselves in the other person's shoes and understand, like, if I try to connect with you, if I try to empathize with you, what are you thinking? Because it's a mistake to assume that people want to be communicated the way we communicate, and it's a mistake to assume that what's important to us, it's important for other people too. So you can download that, you can print screen it, and you can use it and to empathize with other people. Here is how you can buy trust through empathy. 5 things that you could do as a leader. Active listening. Make sure and make a conscious effort to listen actively to your people without distraction, without your PC, without your phone, without PowerPoints, without hiding behind kind of the PC screen when you have a conversation with them, without being concerned about the next thing and the next meeting. Give them the feeling that they're important. Vulnerability. Share your own challenges and learning experiences. Many times we want to portray an image that we are better than maybe we are, and that's where this imposter syndrome comes from. But when you acknowledge your weaknesses, when you acknowledge your mistakes, when you acknowledge what you learn by making mistakes, that's when you actually, people value that vulnerability. It builds trust. They trust you because you acknowledge your mistakes, and so then you're not going to try to hide those mistakes. In the future, you're going to be trustworthy for them. Personal attention, like if you take time to understand each team member, their aspiration, their goals, their motivation. Consistent support. Be there for your team members during both success and failures. That absolutely builds trust. Recognition and appreciation. Regularly acknowledge the hard work and achievement that your team members are doing. All these things build trust with your team and true empathy. Here are some reflective questions for this principle. Think about, when was the last time when you actively put yourself in someone else's shoes at work? And how did that change your interaction with them? Like using the empathy map I just shared with you. If you haven't done that, I assume you have, maybe unconsciously, but you haven't, then you can start doing it now. Think of a situation where you had to earn someone's trust. What specific actions did you take to demonstrate your reliability and understanding? How do you think your team will describe your response to their mistakes or challenges? Do they think do they say you criticize them? Do they say you support them? Do they say you take some responsibility for them? Do they say that you blame them? What would they say? And how does that align with the empathetic leader you aspire to be? What can you adjust in your daily communication to ensure it's more empathetically aligned with your team needs and perspective? These are some really good questions. You have them in your participant guide. If not, then you just print screen them here, and then you can spend some time thinking about that. All right, let's go to principle number 3. Principle number 3 leading from the heart. Some strategies for leaders to connect with their team members on a deeper level. And again, the core principle, what we're sharing today, is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I truly believe that. So how could we lead people from the heart? How could we show people that we care? And this is one of the mistakes that I made in the past. Like, I thought that, I'm the manager, I'm in charge, so I don't really care about how people feel here. We had to bring results. I was very much results oriented, and so that hurt people feeling, that made people feel anxious at work, that stressed people out, and that was not necessarily. That was not necessary. It was unnecessary for us to go through that. I made this mistake. I didn't try to connect with them. I didn't try to empathize with them. I didn't connect with them heart to heart before asking for a hand. This is what John Maxwell says, that great leaders touch a heart before they ask for a hand. And how can we connect with our people? Okay? First of all, we need to connect with ourselves. We need to know and like ourselves. We need to know our strengths, our weaknesses, and be okay with that. Not only be okay, but like those. We need to communicate with openness and sincerity, even when the situation it's difficult or uncomfortable, and the truth is uncomfortable. One of the first responsibilities of the leader is to define reality. We need to know our people. What I just mentioned, their aspiration, their motivation, their goals, their dreams, everything about them. Walk your talk. I think this is self-explanatory. If you live your values, then that, if you promise something, you do it. If you don't over-promise and under-deliver, if you walk your talk, if you do what you tell them to do, what you ask them to do, then people will follow you. They will trust you. Meet them where they are. I think this is one of the things where, as a leader, we may say, okay, we have an open door policy, and you're always welcome to come, and my door is open. Well, you have to take initiative. You have to go where people are. If you are in your vision, like if you live in like 3, 6 months, 1 year ahead of time, because that's what you need to do as a leader, you have to create the vision for the organization. But your people are in the day-to-day tasks, then you have to go from your vision and actually connect whatever that is to what they're doing today. So you have to go and meet your people, meet them where they are. Focus on them, not yourself. And this is, again, do I see people as valuable? So I talk to them and I share this with them because I see they have value, rather than I believe I have something of value to share with them, right? So do I see people as valuable, and so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing? Or do I think I have something of value to share with them? Very different approaches, okay? So focusing on them, not yourself, and their need, not yours. And of course, believing in them. I think this is self-explanatory. Okay, so one of the ways we help leaders to understand their people and to really get how to help their people is through one of the Maxwell leadership assessments. And if you are here on this course, then probably you have taken one of these. If you have not, and this is the first time you hear about one of these, then I really encourage you to take one of our assessments. So these are personality-based assessments, and actually what it gives us a deep view of someone's personality and communication style and work style in 3 different situations. We call these, the public self, the private self, and the perceived self. And because, you don't want to convince people. If you know how people work, if you know their style, if you know their aspirations, then you don't need to convince them. You want to connect with them. This is a big principle. I was trying to convince people. I was trying to convince people that my ideas were good, that the vision that I had for the team was good, and so I failed to connect with them. Through these assessments, we actually help people get the do's and don'ts in communication, to get the how these people react to pressure, how these people see themselves, how these people perceive the demands of the role they're in, their leadership strengths. So first of all, this is a tool for you to know yourself, and it's a tool for you to know your team. And we use this with leaders and organizations, and help leaders to understand their people. And this is the difference. When you understand people, you can actually connect with them heart to heart. Because when you lead yourself, you use your head. But when you lead others, you need to use your heart. So in order for you to really understand them, you can use some of these assessments or other assessments on the market. As a leader, we have to initiate that connection. We can't just wait for people to come to us. We need to initiate it. And how do we do that? Like, what do we need to do as a leader? What's our job as a leader in this connection and influencing matter? We need to find time to make ourselves available to people. Learn people's names. I mean, this is one of the most appreciative things that people want is for you to know their name. And I can share, this is one of my weaknesses. I'm not really good at learning people's names. I know there are techniques out there. I have not learned those. I still have a lot of work to do, but I'm working at it. And I know it was one of my blind spots. If learning people's name, it's that simple. Telling people how much you appreciate them. So many times we appreciate people and we are so short and so lean with compliments. We don't give compliments. We don't share appreciation because that's obvious. It's a good thing. Like, that's obvious. You've done a really good job. Well, it's maybe not obvious. And even if it's obvious, people want to hear it. So give people compliment. Tell them how much you appreciate them. Walk slowly through the crowds. Go in where people are. Go at the coffee machine. Go at the water fountain. Go into the fika room. Go into the playroom. And just interact with people so they have a chance to talk to you. If you're busy and go to the next meeting, then they don't want to interrupt you. Walk slowly through the crowds. Find out what people are doing. Ask them, what are you working on? And listen. People that do this very well, they listen. So here is kind of the next principle, and we're gonna go to the next one very quick. But connect with people also has us adapting our communication styles with theirs. The golden rule says that we should treat people the way we want to be treated, right? I mean, you're familiar with the golden rule. Now, what I have found out is that there is another rule. It's called the platinum rule. And the platinum rule says, treat people the way they want to be treated. And how is that translated to communication? Well, communicate with people the way they want to be communicated with, not the way you want to communicate with them or the way you want to be communicated to. So again, this is where our assessments bring huge value. We can look at the three different areas in our communication, the public self, the way we perceive the demands of the environment, the private self in the middle there, the core values, and the perceived self. So we know that people tend to communicate differently when they are comfortable, when they are under pressure, and when they are in the public. So understanding someone's styles allows us to adapt our communication style to theirs. And the assessment, it's quite deep and extensive and gives you a lot of information on how to motivate and what your people value, you know, how to communicate with them, the do's and don'ts, how do they analyze information. This is valid for you if you take your self-assessment. And then when we use this with teams, we give leaders, you know, kind of the blueprint for motivating and working with their team members. And this is quite extensive. I'm not going to go into details right now. I don't have the time on my command to go through this, but it's quite extensive. So all the do's and don'ts, motivational characteristics, personal growth areas for them, and the value that they bring to the table. We also offer a 7-dimensional leadership profile. This is also included in the assessment, and so then allows us to match people with roles and to see if these people are actually working in the strengths in their strengths areas, or maybe they are stretched outside of their strengths areas. We look at how our perspective, like based on your style, and how is this impacting the way we interact with other people. And for example, if I would be holding this ball here between us, between the camera and you, or in the middle of a room, we might see different colors. And this would say, well, why do you say it's blue? Because for me it's yellow. Well, it might be that they are different perspectives, and they all can be true. They all can be right. So if I see things from a different perspective, doesn't mean that it's wrong or right. They all could be true. They could be different perspectives. So it's good for us to be aware of the different perspectives in our team, and how do we engage and interact with them. Some reflective questions here. So again, if you have never taken the assessment, I invite you to take it. There will be a link on this platform where you could do that. But here is some reflective questions for you. These are more or less, if you don't take the assessment and you just do kind of a self-reflection exercise here, these are some really good questions for you. If you take the assessment either might confirm some of these things, or might give you a different perspective on some things that maybe you don't see for yourself. Okay, so these are some really good reflective questions for us. All right, let's go to principle number 4 here. Okay, connecting with people and elevating our leadership to the next level. You know, how do we take our leadership to the next level? One of the things that I learn, it's that leaders are learners. Like, I don't know if there is any time where we could say, well, we learn what we had to learn, and there is nothing new for me to learn here. So I know leaders are learners. So the question is, like, you know, where are you learning? In what areas of your life are you learning? What are you learning? Where are you focusing your learning as a leader? How do you stay up to date? Like the fact that you are here watching this tells me that you see that's important for you, and you are actually investing time and resources in your development. So here are some questions for us, or some things for us to reflect on. How do we intentionally not become complacent? Because here is what I know. There is no such thing as inertia. In other words, the world is not going to stop for us. The world is going to continue to develop. Like, are we developing with it or not? Like the AI is not something you ask for. I didn't ask for, you didn't ask for, it's here. What do we do? Like, are we going to deny it, or are we going to learn how we can benefit from it? So many other things that impact our life and our careers. So how do we not become complacent and actually grow? Asking questions. If we think we have the answers, then we're not going to ask enough questions. So then we're not going to learn the things that we need to learn. Keep the bar of excellence high for us. Be people-centric. Remain today focused, and keep paying the price. You know, the last two there, like be today centering, it's because I see so many people, and I have some examples of some of my former colleagues and friends that, I mean, social media, it's a really good thing that it reminds you, like especially Facebook, it reminds you, oh, here's a memory from 3 years ago. And when I see people sharing a memory from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, even 1 year ago, what it tells me that they're living in the past. They're still excited by the things they've done 1 year ago or 2 years ago, even worse, 5 years ago. That's a sign that they become complacent. They're just like a passenger. They're not growing. So if you're still excited about the things that you've done in the past, then you're not today focused. You're focused on the past. And so make sure that you're not focusing on the past. Make sure that you don't live in the past. Be today focused. And also pay the price. There is always a price. There is always a price. You could play now and pay later, or you could pay now and play later. But there's always a price. And in growth and development as a leader, the price never stops. Like, it's not like a toll. You pay this toll and then the next part of the highway is going to be toll free. Yeah, but then it's another toll, and then another toll, and then another toll. There is no free highway to success or to leadership. So are you willing to continually pay the price of leadership? Are you willing to continually grow? Because each level of growth, each new challenge requires different and better you. It requires you to change. At each level, we need to grow. Requires a better us, a different us, and more of us. That's what I know. That's what I learned. So are you ready for some next steps? Like, some next steps could be the assessment. You haven't taken the assessment, then I encourage you to take the assessment. Then if you have a team, then bring this assessment to the team. We'll create a team report for you. You're gonna see the combined style of the team, the team reaction to pressure, what each individual brings to the table, results, inspiration, cooperation, team quality. This is a 32-page personalized report on your team. You're gonna see each person kind of where they stand on a team map. You're gonna see the different styles in our assessments. We have a 32 different combination of styles, and you're gonna see where your people are, and if there's maybe in this case an area of your team, like personality wise, that you want to cover, you want to strengthen, you want to bring some more people that have that personality side, then this is a really good visualization tool for that. We also have one-on-one coaching programs. So if you're interested in that, just let me know, drop me a line at florin@florinlungu.com. One of the things the assessments give us, it's personal growth areas. And usually what we do with leaders, when I coach them one-on-one, we take the areas suggested by the assessment, we adapt them to their current situation and their aspiration and goals, and then we create a 6 months coaching program. And then I work with them one-on-one on that program. And we also have groups, like focus groups, where we take different books or different principles from Maxwell, leadership philosophy, from our work with other thought leaders, and we have these focus groups in the small private focus groups between 6 to 8 people, focusing on one specific area. So if there is leadership, it's one of the things you want to improve, then you might want to join one of our roundtables, and I can share more with you if you drop me a line at florin@florinlungu.com. So some key reflection questions for you in the growth area. What's your plan for growth? Do you have a plan for growth? Where do you need to focus your growth? 3 things. What are some things that you're learning, unlearning, and relearning in this season of your life? I really encourage you to spend some time on those questions. It will really help you. Okay, so this is what I want to share with you today in this lesson. So let's recap and look at some of the takeaways. Okay, the core principle of what we shared today, we have to remember that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Some changes I made, maybe some things that you want to make, or maybe not. At least this is what helped me, the changes that I made when I started on this journey. Some of the things that we covered today, what leadership is, the 5 levels of leadership, how influence grows with trust, some connecting practices, and some next steps for you to elevate your leadership. At the end of the day, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. How can we improve our influence? The difference between management and leadership, that's another thing we covered today. And why we might need to have both. There might be some parts of your responsibilities that you need to manage systems, but in order to really, be a leader, you need to focus on the development and motivation of people. Okay, so that's a good distinction to make and understand. Okay, this is part of my role. I need to manage some things, but I also need to lead some people in this direction. Okay, trust, the foundation of leadership, and communicating with people the way they want to be communicated with, adapting our style and communication and presentation to other people. Finally, every new challenge, every new level of growth requires more of you, requires for you to develop, requires for you to become better and to become more effective. This is what I want to share with you. I think that's the last thing I wanted to share with you. So just remember this. As you go through your day and through your leadership career, every level of growth, if you are aspiring to become a leader at a different level, to grow in your organization, it will require a different you. It will require for you to grow. So this is what I want to share. There were some opportunities for you. If you're interested in any of those, drop me a line, get in touch with me. I'll be more than happy to share those with you. All right. Thank you for tuning in. I'm so happy you joined us today. I look forward to see you in the next video. All right, take care. Bye-bye.